On Frozen Pass, it's possible to capture the tunnel capture zone with a helicopter from the mountain outside. If you're having a nice peaceful flight down by the cliffs of Dover and you need to get home in a jiffy, you can take a shortcut through this cliff. On buildings with offices, some amount of interior detail is actually modelled if you have a look. And if a helicopter can capture the zone, theoretically it must be technically therefore possible to do this with a plane, but good luck doing that. One thing that's really nice about the offices is the small detail that you can actually see one of the original War Thunder posters on the wall inside. On Poland, there's a piano near the A-cap with a half-sunken barrel as a makeshift chair. If you're having trouble bombing in ground forces, it might not necessarily be your fault. How the game handles rendering a lower resolution of the map when you're far away is pretty poor. One of the biggest offenders is Middle East, and you can see in this footage how if it wasn't for already having a lock, there would be no chance of me seeing the enemy vehicle. On desert maps, if your tank is around for long enough, it will get dirty and covered in dust, and you can actually clean off your tank by driving into the nearest body of water. The red dotted line you can see on the Fulda Ground Forces minimap is supposed to represent the border between East and West Germany. Because of how temperature affects pressure and atmospheric sciencey stuff, your shells will have more or less drop depending on the ambient temperature of the map. On 38th parallel, near the southwestern spawn point, there's an OH-23 Raven helicopter, which saw operational use during the Korean War. From my very advanced look at Wikipedia for 10 minutes, doesn't seem like it has much combat capability or use, so I doubt we'll see it in the game anytime soon. Some of the reflections on Spaceport are straight up from Alaska. For some maps there exists a ground RB and an air RB version of the map, and you can see where the ground forces map is within that air RB map on maps like Poland, Port Novorossiysk, and Stalingrad.
Barjack leader to Barjack 2. Don't you get bored at the beginning of these matches? It's just climbing with nothing to do.
Barjack 2 to Barjack leader. I've got a suggestion, over.
We are not playing I Spy again. Ship, Sky and Sea is a rather dull letter combination.
No, you see I'm playing the sponsor of this video and there are 650 champions to collect. Here's my top 3 reasons why you should play 2. Number 1, there's billions of combinations of customization. Number 2, Ronda Rousey, the legendary MMA pro wrestler, is coming to the game soon. More than marvelous, I say, because all you have to do to get her is play Raid Shadow Legends for 7 days between now and February 20th. Number 3, if you're an Amazon Prime member, there's exclusive rewards in it for you too. Just use promo code RAIDRONDA with the link in the description and new players will get a free starter pack worth almost $30.
Sounds brilliant. Where can I play this fantastic game, Jenkins?
Well, you can click the link in the description or the pinned comment, but don't dilly-dally because the rewards are only available for the next 30 days.
On the outskirts of the Carpathians ground forces map, there's a smiley face hidden in the tree line. The hangars on the various airfields of War Thunder have the collisions set up so that you can actually drive inside them. If it wasn't for Jaying Out being so overpowered, they might actually be a good option to defend from an airfield camper. I saw this theory in a random one-off comment on Reddit like years ago, and it's lived in my head rent-free ever since because it just makes sense the more I think about it. What if these weird maps, American Desert, Alaska sort of thing, are fabricated training grounds for a Soviet Cold War invasion of America? For me, it's a great way to explain away the weird signposts, strange fonts, and weird wording that you see on all of the signs around War Thunder. And it explains why the maps are just randomly in the middle of nowhere for almost no reason. Deep in the untamed wilderness of the Hurtgen Forest is possibly one of the most useless speed limit signs. I mean, unless you're in some specific vehicles that could really go zoom. The sign here on the hotel on Seversk 13 lights up during nighttime battles. Every time you drive past it, maybe cheer up a little bit, because the sign translates to Hotel Friendship. I'm not sure if these things exist outside of Europe, but in areas of farmland, hikers use stiles to get over fences. And there's one here on the Belgium map, or a Gaijin developer accidentally offset an asset 90 degrees. On the Bourbon Island map, this hole in the ground here is a diamond mine, and the map is inspired by Reunion Island in the Indian Ocean. We've previously spoke about the sneaky little campsite on the Ground Forces test drive map. But with the introduction of Scouts drones, we can now see the test drive map from a whole new perspective, and I did not expect it to be an island. On the Israeli test flight air map, there's a small little town that you can check out with your plane if you can manage to make it over there. On Operation Defending Stalingrad, some of the anti-aircraft guns have not quite made it into their defensive positions. On the Poland ground forces map, there's signposts that point to Berlin and Kyiv. It's a bit of a strange choice of signage considering these locations are not exactly next door neighbours. More importantly, the spelling here tells us that the map is likely set during the height of the Second World War. In Polish, Kyiv looks more like Kachow, so this sign here was actually put up by a German. Which kind of makes sense because down the street, there's this World War II propaganda poster that we know is from 1943 because the poster actually existed in the real world and it was promoting getting rid of old shoes and clothes and that sort of thing for the war effort. If you get close enough to the ground spar on the test flight air maps, you'll notice that they're always keeping their beady little eye on you. And the same is true of the machine guns on top of the tanks. Now, I'm sure it's not a surprise that you can ban one map if you have premium. I'd love to hear in the comments what everyone's banned and why, because there is such a diverse opinion on this and it's really interesting, and maybe we can make a cool pie chart. On Stalingrad, it's possible to get underneath the platform near the train tracks and hide away from the enemy team. We did a little testing with vehicles of various sizes, but the results seem to be if you get hit by a bomb, this terrain oddity won't help much. On the Sun City map, the map is supposedly set somewhere in the Middle East, according to the original dev blog and the wiki page, yet features post boxes from America and phone codes from Barbados.
The number you have called is not recognized. Please check the number and dial again.
Ah, what a disappointment. If you're in a small tank on the Ardennes map and you're in a pickle being chased by a behemoth of enemy vehicles, you can sneak through one of these two archways into a sort of hidden courtyard area, and if the enemy's tank is too large, they might not be able to follow you. In the War Thunder hangar, this map can be found inside the tent and on the wall, and is possibly a map of the hangar itself. If you fly east for long enough on the War Thunder test flight for the helicopters, you'll find a secondary low-res non-functional helipad. On the Soviet Air test flight map, there's some very strange geometry. On Kursk, there's a downed bomber near one of the capture zones, and the same plane can also be seen on the surroundings of Volokholamsk. You can take out the cable cars on an abandoned town. I hope that this town wasn't abandoned while someone was in the cable car and they were just left halfway up. Despite a plethora of snow maps in War Thunder, Frozen Pass is the only one to feature snowmen in any decent density, and it seems a shame that these frozen friends aren't more common across the War Thunder cinematic universe. The buildings on Alaska are actually possible to be shot through with some high-powered APFSDS, so watch out next time you're AFK on the BCAP. On the huge channel map that has parts of southern Britain and northern France, Canterbury Cathedral is actually modelled, and you can go and have a visit if you'd like, but bring a tent because the rest of Canterbury isn't modelled, so it's going to be a tough time finding a hotel. On the Arctic Pier map, you can see the Northern Lights if you happen to get a battle during the night time. They look pretty awesome and almost make night battles bearable. Since the update that brought us the wonderfully balanced drones, Seversk 13 got a small and subtle update in reference to the teaser trailer Gaijin put out. There's now a monument to the Sukhoi 25, a small memorial to Sergei call-sign Rook 1 being unable to get out of his aircraft as Gaijin haven't implemented ejection seats into the game. He went down with his aircraft after sustaining enemy surface-to-air missile fire. The motorcycles on Sinai have an old version of the BMW logo. On the inaccessible island on Poland's Lake, inside the tower, one of the developers or map makers signed the map with WW was here. SM10AAP, one of the forum mods, was able to do us an absolute solid and asked one of the developers if they had any idea what this was about. The dev he asked said it was just a bit of fun graffiti, but they actually thought it'd been removed quite some time ago. So we might have fucked it, and this detail might get removed. Sorry about that. When playing Normandy on the higher battle ratings, you'll notice that the barrage balloons disappear and the church is no longer on fire. Placed around the naval maps in War Thunder, you can actually see some U-boat pens in the game. Maybe one day we'll see the return of the mechanics shown off in Silent Thunder, the April Fool's 2018 event, and maybe one day submarines will be playable once again. Of the two helicopter respawn bases on ground forces maps, only one of them has anti-aircraft guns. But the anti-aircraft guns on the forward base don't actually do any damage. There's a huge container ship with Borealis painted on the side, and as far as I can tell is a reference to the Borealis ship in Half-Life 2, although I'm not entirely sure because my experience of Half-Life is watching Pyrocynical carry a purple hat through Black Mesa. You can get under the ice on Finland and even shoot out from underneath. Similar to Frozen Pass's tunnel shenanigans, you can actually capture the Bravo point on Spaceport by landing a helicopter on top of the skyscraper. Unlike the tunnel, this one's actually pretty overpowered considering you're actually kind of shielded on the sides by the design of the building. And of course, when a vehicle is on the cap, you can't decap. So potentially you could have enemies scrambling around trying to find a tank that doesn't exist. If you drive to this location on the Arctic Pier map, you'll find a strange steel box outputting some Morse code. If you translate the Morse code, it translates to attack the D point. And if you head here on the Arctic Polar Base map, this house near the sea cap plays the legendary music from the War Thunder original soundtrack, Advance Australia. Now, it doesn't matter where you're from or who you are, if you play War Thunder, this song is important to you. So let us take a moment for all of the friends of the Zoltan channel and War Thunder who are not having the best of times right now. Let's remind them to not do something stupid because things always get better, and let us come together and please all rise and remain standing for the War Thunder National Anthem.